Welcome. This is not a place for quick answers or loud certainties. This is a quiet space for questions that most people carry but rarely speak aloud. Questions about meaning, identity, and the strange feeling that life is more than what we can immediately see. If you have ever felt lost without knowing why, or full without knowing what is missing, you are not alone. Let us begin there. Have you ever looked up at a vast, star-filled sky and felt something stir inside you for no clear reason? Not awe alone, not fear, but a subtle familiarity, as if this moment, this view, this feeling has happened before. Many people dismiss it quickly, telling themselves it is imagination or emotion, yet the feeling lingers, a quiet whisper that says, "I have been here somehow." Even when the mind cannot explain how or when, beneath that moment lies a deeper, quieter pain, the pain of living an entire life while never fully understanding who you truly are. You may know your name, your profession, your family history, you may know what you like and what you fear, but when all roles fall away, when distractions fade, there is often a hollow question left unanswered. Who is the one living this life? And why does that answer feel just out of reach? The question of origin is often misunderstood. It is not shallow curiosity or philosophical entertainment. It is not a trend or a spiritual luxury. It is a survival question. Because without knowing where we come from, we struggle to understand why we are here. Purpose cannot grow in soil where roots are unknown. When the origin feels unclear, direction becomes fragile. Many people are told a simple story. You were born to your parents, raised in a certain place, shaped by circumstance. While this explains the surface, it leaves something unresolved. It does not touch the deeper sense of continuity we feel within ourselves. It does not explain why some fears appear without cause, or why certain longings feel older than this lifetime. Knowing only biological beginnings often leaves an emotional emptiness that no achievement can fill. Hidden beneath this uncertainty is one of humanity's oldest fears, the fear of disappearance. The fear that when the body ends, everything ends, that all memories, struggles, loves, and lessons are erased without trace. For many, this fear is not dramatic or loud. It is quiet. It appears late at night, in moments of loss, or in the silence after success fails to satisfy. It asks, will any of this matter when I am gone? At the core of these questions is a simple but powerful need. The need to know that our existence is meaningful, that we are not accidents drifting briefly through time, that our presence carries weight, continuity, and consequence. This need is not selfish, it is human. Without meaning, effort feels heavy. Without meaning, suffering feels cruel. And without meaning, love feels unbearably fragile. Buddhist philosophy does not approach these questions to comfort us with fantasies. It approaches them to meet our confusion honestly, not by giving easy conclusions, but by guiding attention toward experience itself, toward the patterns of longing, fear, and hope that repeat across human lives. It begins not by asking us to believe, but by asking us to look closely. This quiet uncertainty is not a weakness, it is the doorway. The moment when searching begins not outward, but inward, and it is from this place of loneliness, searching, and the deep desire to be understood, that the journey truly starts. The Buddha's search for origins was never an abstract intellectual exercise. He did not ask where existence came from to satisfy curiosity or win debates. His question was urgent, personal, and born from suffering. He looked at aging, illness, loss, and death, and asked a different question than most people do. Not, who created this? But, why does this keep happening? His entire inquiry was driven by one purpose only: the end of suffering. After his awakening, the Buddha expressed this search in a verse that has echoed for centuries. He spoke of wandering through countless births, searching again and again for the one who built the house of existence. This was not poetry for its own sake. It was a confession of exhaustion, a recognition that life, when lived unconsciously, repeats itself in familiar patterns of pain, birth after birth, hope after hope, disappointment after disappointment. The verse is not mystical nostalgia. It is the voice of someone who has finally seen the cycle clearly. In Buddhist language, the house is not a physical structure. It is the constructed sense of individual existence. The feeling of being a solid someone, moving through a solid world. Walls of identity, rooms of memory, doors of desire, windows of expectation. This house feels familiar and safe, yet it is also the place where suffering arises, because anything built can crack, anything constructed can collapse, and anything we cling to as permanent eventually proves otherwise. What the Buddha discovered was deeply unsettling to many. The builder of this house is not a god, not a divine architect, not a cosmic judge. There is no external creator placing souls into bodies according to a hidden plan. This realization removed both comfort and blame. There was no higher being to reward or punish, and no one else to hold responsible. The source of repetition lay much closer than people expected. The true architects of the house, according to the Buddha, are craving and ignorance. Craving pulls the mind toward pleasure, identity, and continuation. Ignorance blinds the mind to impermanence, interdependence, and change. Together, they design the blueprint of repeated becoming, not as moral failures, but as habitual forces. They operate quietly, shaping choices, reactions, and attachments long before awareness arises. This explains why human suffering often feels repetitive. Different faces, different settings, yet the same emotional patterns return. Longing followed by loss, attachment followed by fear, hope followed by disappointment. People change partners, careers, beliefs, even identities, yet recognize the same inner struggles resurfacing. The Buddha did not see this as bad luck. He saw it as architecture working exactly as designed. What makes this teaching uncomfortable is its implication. If craving and ignorance build the house, then suffering is not imposed from outside. It is sustained from within. This realization strips away comforting narratives of victimhood, but it also removes the burden of helplessness. If the cause is internal, transformation is possible. And if transformation is possible, freedom is not reserved for the chosen or the favored. The Buddha's courage lies precisely here. He did not soften this insight to make it easier to accept. He did not replace one comforting myth with another. He chose clarity over consolation. Looking directly at the machinery of suffering requires immense honesty. It means seeing one's own role in the cycle, without hatred and without excuses. This is where blame begins to dissolve. Not because responsibility disappears, but because understanding deepens. Suffering is no longer framed as punishment, destiny, or divine will. It becomes a process that can be observed, understood, and gradually undone. The Buddha's search for the builder was not an accusation, it was an act of liberation, and when the builder was finally seen clearly, the house lost its power, not destroyed by force, but rendered unnecessary by understanding. This moment marks not the end of life, but the end of blind repetition. It is here that awakening begins, not as an escape from reality, but as a deeper encounter with it. Human beings have always leaned toward extremes when trying to explain existence. Across cultures and eras, we see three familiar directions. Some traditions point to a creator who brings the world into being by intention. Others describe a continuous cycle of rebirth governed by moral law. Still others, especially indigenous traditions, speak of ancestral presence embedded in land and nature. Each view reflects a sincere attempt to make sense of life, suffering, and belonging, yet each also carries assumptions that quietly shape how people relate to their pain. The need behind these views is deeply human. We long for an absolute beginning, a single point where everything started, where confusion ends and certainty begins. An origin story gives psychological comfort. It suggests order instead of chaos, purpose instead of randomness. If there is a clear beginning, then perhaps there is a clear meaning. This desire is not foolish. It is a response to fear, especially the fear of insignificance. However, the Buddha saw a subtle problem in this search. Looking for a first cause assumes that reality functions like a story with a clear opening chapter. It assumes existence must follow human logic to be valid. But life, as directly experienced, does not behave this way. Every event arises from conditions that themselves arise from earlier conditions. Tracing causes backward becomes an endless chain, not a single origin point. The search for a first cause turns into an intellectual maze with no exit. This is why the Buddha avoided the idea of a permanent creator on one side and total randomness on the other. A creator implies something eternal and unchanging behind experience. Randomness implies meaninglessness and moral emptiness. Both extremes fail to address lived suffering. They explain the universe, but they do not relieve pain. The Buddha's concern was never cosmology for its own sake. It was the human experience of dissatisfaction that repeats moment after moment. When questioned directly about the ultimate beginning of existence, the Buddha often remained silent. This silence has been misunderstood as avoidance or mystery. In truth, it was precision. He recognized that some questions are built on false assumptions. Answering them only strengthens confusion. Silence in this case was not absence of wisdom, but restraint guided by compassion. The Buddha compared such questions to asking what lies north of the North Pole. The question sounds reasonable, yet it rests on a framework that no longer applies. North loses meaning beyond that point. In the same way, asking for an absolute beginning assumes time and causality operate in a simple, linear way. They do not. The mistake lies not in curiosity, but in the structure of the question itself. This insight brings an unexpected relief. If the question is flawed, then the anxiety around answering it can soften. One does not need to solve the universe to live wisely. The Buddha redirected attention from unanswerable metaphysics to observable reality. He asked people to look at suffering as it appears now, to notice craving, resistance, fear, and attachment as lived experiences, not abstract ideas. By shifting focus, the Buddha changed the direction of spiritual inquiry. Instead of debating origins, he examined conditions. Instead of defending beliefs, he observed processes. Instead of assigning blame to gods, fate, or chance, he explored cause and effect within experience. This approach does not deny mystery. It simply refuses to be trapped by it. The middle way is not a compromise between beliefs. It is a practical orientation toward reality, one that values what can be known through awareness and practice, one that loosens arguments and returns attention to the present moment. Here, meaning is not imposed from the outside. It emerges from understanding how suffering arises and how it can end, and in that shift, the mind finds something rare: clarity without conflict, and peace without denial. For many people, the idea of past lives feels distant, symbolic, or purely religious. It is often assumed to belong only to ancient texts or spiritual imagination. Yet when examined carefully, the subject does not rest solely on belief. Across history, personal testimony, and modern research, certain patterns appear repeatedly. They do not force conclusions, but they invite honest attention. What emerges is not proof in the absolute sense, but a body of evidence that resists easy dismissal. The earliest and most detailed account within Buddhism comes from the Buddha himself. On the night of his awakening, he described recalling countless previous lives with extraordinary clarity, not vague impressions or symbolic visions, but concrete details of names, families, actions, and circumstances. These recollections were not presented as miracles meant to impress others. They were described as direct knowledge, arising from deep concentration and insight. For the Buddha, remembering past lives was not the goal, but a consequence of understanding the nature of mind. Beyond the Buddha's own account, modern research has explored similar claims in unexpected places. For several decades, researchers have documented cases of young children who spontaneously speak about previous lives. These investigations focus on careful interviews, verification of details, and avoidance of suggestion. The work is slow, methodical, and cautious by design. Rather than promoting belief, researchers aim to record what can be checked and compared. The results do not rely on a single culture or belief system. One striking feature of these cases is their consistency. Most children begin speaking about past life memories between early childhood and early school age. The memories often fade as the child grows older. Across different countries, religions, and social environments, similar patterns appear. Children describe specific locations, relationships, and events unknown to their current families. The cross-cultural repetition challenges the idea that these stories are simply learned or culturally scripted. Criticism has accompanied this research from the beginning, as it should. Skeptics suggest fantasy, suggestion, coincidence, or unconscious influence. These concerns are not ignored. Researchers actively attempt to rule out such explanations through verification and documentation. Cases are rejected when evidence is weak or contaminated. The existence of criticism does not invalidate the research. Instead, it reflects the seriousness with which the topic is treated. Among the most frequently cited cases is that of a young girl who recalled a previous life with remarkable specificity. She named people, places, and events later confirmed by independent witnesses. She recognized individuals she had never met and described details she could not have learned through normal means. Investigations involved family members, officials, and neutral observers. The case gained attention not because it was sensational, but because multiple sources confirmed the same facts. It stands as one example among many, not as definitive proof, but as a significant anomaly. Despite decades of study, science remains cautious. No single theory fully explains how such memories might arise. Current models of memory and brain function struggle to account for verified details without known sources. At the same time, science resists drawing conclusions beyond what evidence can support. This creates an unusual position. Past life memory cannot be conclusively proven, yet it cannot be conclusively dismissed either. In this uncertainty, curiosity remains open, and understanding continues to evolve. This careful balance mirrors the Buddhist approach itself. Neither blind belief nor rigid denial. An invitation to observe, question, and remain open without clinging to conclusions. For the thoughtful listener, this space between certainty and rejection is not weakness. It is where deeper inquiry becomes possible. When Buddhism speaks of rebirth, it does not describe a fixed someone traveling from life to life. What continues is not a personal identity, not a name, not a memory in the usual sense. It is a process, a flow of mental activity shaped by conditions, intentions, and habits. This idea can feel unsettling at first, because it removes the comforting image of a permanent self. Yet it also removes the fear of being trapped inside something solid and unchangeable. The Buddha used simple images to explain this continuity without identity. One is the image of a river. A river appears to be the same from day to day, yet the water is never the same. Every moment, new water flows in, while old water flows out. There is continuity without sameness. In the same way, the stream of consciousness flows onward, moment by moment, life by life, without a fixed core traveling through it. Another image is fire. A fire exists only because of fuel and conditions. A flame lit from another flame is not the same flame, yet it is not entirely different. There is a causal connection, not a transferred object. Consciousness functions in the same way. It arises dependent on conditions, changes with those conditions, and continues without becoming a permanent thing. This understanding dismantles the idea of an unchanging soul without falling into the belief that nothing continues. The absence of a permanent self is central to Buddhist insight. What we call I is a collection of changing processes, sensations, perceptions, thoughts, emotions, and awareness itself. Each of these changes constantly, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. If we look closely, there is no single element that remains untouched by time. The sense of a solid self arises from continuity, not from permanence. Mistaking continuity for identity is where confusion begins. This confusion becomes especially powerful at the edge of death. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of the final moments of consciousness, not because they determine destiny through judgment, but because they reflect deeply ingrained habits of mind. The final thought carries the momentum of a lifetime of tendencies: fear, attachment, calm, or clarity at that moment influence the direction of the continuing process. This is not fate imposed from outside, but consequence unfolding from within. After physical death, Buddhism describes an intermediate state often referred to as the bardo. This is not a place of reward or punishment. It is a transitional experience, marked by heightened sensitivity and instability. Without a physical body, the mind encounters its own patterns more directly. Experiences arise vividly, shaped by past actions and mental habits. The bardo is neither heaven nor hell. It is a mirror reflecting the accumulated tendencies of consciousness. Within this framework, every moment of mind becomes significant. Each intention, reaction, and choice leaves a subtle imprint. These imprints are fragile, yet powerful. They do not guarantee outcomes, but they influence possibilities. Responsibility here does not mean blame. It means recognition. Recognition that awareness, even when brief, can change the direction of the stream. The fear of death often arises from attachment to identity. When we believe we are a fixed self, death feels like annihilation. When we cling to roles, memories, and control, the idea of letting go becomes terrifying. Buddhism does not deny this fear. It explains its source. Fear emerges from grasping at what cannot remain. By understanding consciousness as a process rather than a possession, a subtle shift occurs. Death becomes less about disappearance and more about transition. Life becomes less about defending a self and more about cultivating clarity. This perspective does not remove grief or loss. It changes the relationship to them. In facing impermanence directly, the mind finds depth instead of denial, and responsibility instead of panic. This is not comfort through fantasy. It is steadiness through understanding. In Buddhism, karma is often misunderstood as punishment or reward. This misunderstanding creates fear and resignation. Karma is not a system that judges. It does not condemn or forgive. Karma reflects. It mirrors intentional action and returns its influence through experience. Like an echo responding to a sound, karma responds to what is put into motion. At the heart of karma lies intention. An action is not defined only by what is done, but by why it is done. Two identical actions can carry very different karmic weight depending on motivation. Anger, generosity, fear, or wisdom shape the imprint left behind. This emphasis removes moral absolutism and replaces it with awareness. Karma becomes a process of learning rather than a verdict passed from outside. This framework raises a painful question. Why are some people born into hardship, while others experience ease from the beginning? Buddhism does not offer comforting simplifications. It explains that conditions at birth arise from complex networks of causes extending beyond a single lifetime. This explanation does not justify suffering. It attempts to understand its origins without blaming chance or divine preference. Compassion arises not from certainty, but from recognizing complexity. A crucial distinction in Buddhist teaching is the difference between tendency and destiny. Past actions create inclinations, not fixed outcomes. They shape probabilities, not commands. A person may be born with challenges, but how those challenges unfold remains open. This distinction protects against fatalism. Karma influences direction, but it does not eliminate choice. Freedom exists within conditions, not outside them. Education, culture, and environment play significant roles in this process. They interact continuously with karmic tendencies. Supportive conditions can soften difficult patterns. Harmful environments can amplify them. Most importantly, present choices carry transformative power. Every moment of awareness interrupts automatic repetition. This is where responsibility becomes meaningful rather than burdensome. Buddhist texts address the appearance of injustice directly. They acknowledge that the world does not distribute suffering evenly. Acts of harm tend to shorten life, while acts of care support longevity. Generosity fosters abundance, while greed reinforces scarcity. These are not moral threats. They are observations of how mental qualities shape lived experience. Understanding this encourages ethical living without fear-based obedience. Personal responsibility within this view is neither harsh nor forgiving in a sentimental way. It is realistic. One inherits the momentum of past actions, yet is never reduced to them. Guilt has no productive role here. Blame only tightens the cycle. Responsibility means recognizing influence, not condemning oneself. Change begins with clarity, not self-punishment. This understanding shifts the emotional tone of life. Suffering is no longer proof of failure. Success is no longer proof of superiority. Both are moments within a larger flow of cause and effect. What matters is how one responds now. Each intentional response alters the current, even slightly. Over time, these changes accumulate into meaningful transformation. Karma, understood properly, restores agency. It reminds us that life is shaped, but not sealed. The future is influenced, but not predetermined. This recognition does not promise control. It offers participation. And in that participation, helplessness gives way to responsibility, and fear gives way to quiet confidence. Understanding rebirth in Buddhism is not about collecting beliefs. It is not about convincing oneself that multiple lives exist. Its value lies in how it changes the way one lives now. When life is seen as part of a longer unfolding process, urgency shifts. Desperation softens. Choices gain weight, not because of fear, but because of continuity. Life becomes something to be lived carefully rather than consumed quickly. One of the first transformations is the relationship with death. Death is no longer experienced solely as a final erasure. It becomes a transition within an ongoing flow. This does not eliminate grief, but it reduces panic. Fear loosens when death is no longer imagined as a total collapse into nothingness. What remains is seriousness without terror. Life becomes precious without becoming frantic. Suffering, seen through this lens, also changes meaning. Pain is not interpreted as punishment or personal failure. It is understood as the unfolding of conditions shaped over time. This perspective does not deny injustice or hardship. It reframes them as experiences that carry information. Suffering becomes a teacher, not a sentence. What matters is not why pain appeared, but how it is met. From this understanding, compassion naturally expands. When suffering is recognized as part of a long human journey, judgment loses its grip. Others are no longer reduced to their actions or circumstances. Each person becomes a traveler shaped by causes unseen. Anger softens when replaced by understanding. Distance shrinks when shared vulnerability is recognized. Compassion here is not emotional sentiment. It is insight into shared condition. The Buddha offered practical reflections to anchor this understanding in daily life. He encouraged remembrance of aging, illness, and death. Not to induce fear, but to awaken appreciation. He reminded practitioners that separation is inevitable and that actions are truly owned. These reflections are not pessimistic. They clear away illusions that create careless living. They ground attention in what truly matters. Within this framework, small actions take on unexpected power. A moment of patience interrupts a long chain of anger. A simple act of generosity shifts internal orientation. Mindful speech changes relational patterns. No action is too small to matter when intention is clear. Change does not require dramatic transformation. It accumulates quietly through consistent awareness. This understanding invites responsibility without pressure. There is no demand to be perfect, only an invitation to be attentive. Each moment offers a choice. Even if limited, even within constraints, awareness opens space. That space is where freedom grows, slowly and reliably. The Buddhist approach does not ask for certainty. It does not insist on belief in unseen realms. It asks for observation, to notice patterns of reaction, attachment, and release, to watch how intention shapes experience, to see what happens when awareness replaces habit. This is where the teaching remains open. No final claim is made. No absolute conclusion is imposed. The listener is invited, not persuaded, to observe life as it unfolds, to notice whether living with greater awareness brings less suffering, and to decide, through experience rather than belief, what kind of life is worth continuing.